Hello, I'm Jay Fuller. I practice with the Fuller & Fuller law firm in the state of Washington, and we do injury law. In a prior segment that's accessible through our Fuller & Fuller website at fullerlaw.com, I spoke about what to do in case of an accident, and in that segment I specifically talked about what to do when you're at the scene of the accident. Different helpful ideas that might assist you should you have the bad luck ever to be in an accident. Today what I'd like to address is what I call What to Do in Case of an Accident Part 2, and that means in the days and weeks that follow the time that you might have the misfortune to be in an automobile accident, what you should be looking out for and what you can do as far as your claim is concerned. So one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make time and time again is not going to the doctor if they're hurt. So some people feel as though even though they're hurt, they can kind of wait it out, and they wait for days, weeks, sometimes even months, even though they're hurting, before going to see the doctor. And you have to remember that that's a bad idea, and I'll give you several reasons. Obviously, if you're hurt, you want to get treatment, but also the insurance company is not going to put much weight on what you have to say with regard to what your injuries are. Only when you have the documentation and the opinions of a medical professional, a healthcare professional, are you going to be able to document the specific injuries that you've suffered. Also, it's very important because only if you go to a healthcare professional are you going to be able to get your wage loss paid. And here's what I mean when I say that, and that is, I'm not talking about the insurance company requiring a lot of documentation for a day that you might miss as far as on the day of the accident. But every day thereafter, it's usually, with most insurance companies, a two-part formula. The first thing they're looking for is for every day of work that you miss, they're going to want a permission slip from the doctor that due to your injuries you were allowed to not go to work that day. And this isn't just done for several days. Every day that you miss has to be covered with the doctor's permission. So there are a number of good reasons to seek medical healthcare professional input and opinions and assistance if indeed you've been injured in an accident. The next thing that I want to discuss with you is the fact that it's very important to try to sort out your insurance coverage after the accident. And this is something that people don't think of, but there are all sorts of varieties of insurance coverage. For instance, there's the insurance coverage that's your own auto insurance. There's the adverse insurance, that's the insurance of the person who caused the accident. And of course, there are other types of healthcare coverage, other types of coverage that are important. For instance, your healthcare coverage. And all of these types of insurance coverage fit together and become important during the time that you're treating and you might be missing time off work. It's especially important, and I really want to accent this, to look at your own insurance policy and determine what types of coverage you have. And I know that on the Fuller Law website there are other video segments from other attorneys at our firm about what's called PIP, or personal injury protection. But the reason I mention this is it's especially important that you look at your own insurance coverage, determine if you have that personal injury protection coverage, so that you can fill out the applications and get the paperwork going to get your wage loss and medical bills paid right away. And so that there's no threat that, for instance, with medical bills, that, for instance, you might be turned over to collection or something like that. Well, thanks again for listening. As I mentioned earlier, these are just some additional suggestions. And as far as should you have any questions, please feel free to call me.